Papa Tez here with another Summoner's Glory video, and today I want to talk about two different things. I want to talk about Phantom versus Phantom Master or main character leveling, and also just a tad bit on gear sets. Now I do want to mention right now in advance, J-Town7 placed an excellent video explaining how the gear changes work. He goes through the hardest dungeon in the game, Takamaru's Palace, something like that. But he goes through that Takamaru's Palace. Okay, I got it eventually. But he goes through that dungeon and he explains all the things that are going on between just low level, cranked out perfect stat gear and T1 gear that has maybe okay stats. They're kind of all over the place. And a different pre-update between those two running that dungeon, and then after update running a dungeon with those two gear sets. It's really, really good information. So if you all want to take a look at it, it really goes into detail, especially after going through the bosses and everything about how it does it. And about 10-15 of that video, he goes into detail explaining why the things work the way they do now, especially when it comes to the armor. So please check out J-Town's video. I'll have it down in the description so that you all can click on it and go over there, show him some love, and appreciate him for the hard work that he does in the Summoner's Glory community. But without further ado, let's get started on our video here today, and let's see if we can talk about these things. And this is going to be directed specifically toward new players and returning players so that maybe they can understand or get a few points out of it. Let's get into it. All right, welcome in everybody. Let's take a look at gear. So specifically, I wanted to talk about character level. So you can't see my character level currently up above because I have my logo there. But let's go into an activity. Let's go into Phantom Abode and let's do something like this one. As you see, I'm stuck at 820 there. That Haley is giving me a run for my money. I can tell you that with all the freezes, which I think I can make that really simple by putting on resistance gear and calling it a day. So shouldn't be too hard. But one thing I want you all to look at is when you look at my team right now, what do you notice? You should notice the difference between the middle character, which is my main character or the Phantom Master, me basically, and all the other Phantoms. They are 23, 43 levels away. So you notice that, right? You notice how low my Phantom levels are. Now, one general principle that I know that most follow by is you want to have your Phantom levels as close to your main character levels as possible, right? Well, I'm pretty far away. And the way that the Phantom levels work is, if I remember correctly, at Evo 1, you can get to level 60. At Evo 2, you can get to level 80, and it might be 20 levels after every Evo. I would like for somebody to confirm that in the comments, but definitely let me know there as far as like the max. So just to kind of go over the Evoing portion, because I do have some that are ready to go. If I go here to Pharaoh, and if I hit Evolve, as you see, 80 is the max right now. And if I go to Upgrade, or no, Evolution. So here we go. I got some food ready, as you see here. And we'll put him there. Okay, so it actually goes up to 120. So yeah, the max is 120 actually. And Evo 4, I think, is 160. 5 is 180. 6, 7, whatever, and so on, basically, right? So yeah, it's kind of like what we're looking at right here. All right, so at least my Pharaoh, he's ready to go to 120. But the one problem that I have is if I go to upgrade, I only got 10K of the experiment points that are left, which are basically soul power. Soul power is what you use to upgrade your Phantoms. And it requires a large amount of soul power. So for me personally, I think that that's something that I'm going to bring up, especially to the devs, because I don't think that you should struggle getting the resources toward the beginning of the game. right? I don't think that you should struggle getting resources to level up characters toward the beginning of the game. But that's kind of one thing that at least I notice early on. Now, the cool thing is that Phantom Abode is one of the places in which you can farm it out. It's pretty much probably one of the best places to farm out, specifically the soul power. And of course, the higher that you can go, the better it is for you. So as you see, like, it drastically starts improving. But again, what I'm looking at is, man, getting to this point only on the 50 turns, that means you're gonna have to really crank out some things within your gear to really help yourself, which leans into the second point that I was thinking about, which is why I mentioned J-Town's video at the beginning, at the outset. If you take a look here at Backpack, you notice that I have baseline 2-star gear pieces on, which are from the first dungeon that you run in the game. All right. And I don't have them crazy cranked out or anything like that, but I have it. It's ready to go. Awesome. But let's go take a look here really quick. The burger menu. I figured it out. I figured it out, y'all. Figured it out. Easy. All right, then let's go to character and let's go to extends. And notice this portion now. Now, before it used to be 5%. 40% of base character stats are inherited by all phantoms. That's a 35% increase. So that means that 40%, look what it's inheriting there. The plus 39, their health, the physical attack, physical defense, magical defense. That means that your main stats are really important now. So to me, one thing that I was thinking about is, yes, it's probably going to be great to at least max out the gear set that I have now, which requires you to go into the dungeons and do your thing. You're going to have to be in the dungeons. Now, you're going to have to be in the dungeons a lot more than what we used to. If you take a look here at upgrade, if you take a look at a baseline piece, it only takes 1, right? However, it incrementally goes up by 1 every single time. So this one is a 3 plus 3 at plus 4 requires 4 of these simple runestones, or these starter runestones. Notice this, 13 to get it to 13. So that is definitely different, which means you're gonna have to be in there for a little bit, grinding out, trying to get these simple runestones as much as you can. So that kind of leads to another thing that I wanted to talk about. As far as the gear, still within the same conversation, but if you just take a look overall at the gear sets, of course, a bunch of things have changed a little bit. Yes, of course, I'm running the Eagle Owl, which is with the 35 resistance and the character accuracy. But when I look at this gear, something like the Cavalier Mantle, which gives the character plus 40% on the physical attack and magic attack, that seems like it might be even more useful now. Why? Because you're going to get 30% of those stats. So it looks really, really good. And the gold, I think, is just what, the 20 accuracy and the speed on the main character, so not as much. But I definitely was thinking about any sets of gear that have those main stats on it. This one with the defense and the magic defense, which is a little bit different. The character resistance is indeed really nice, of course. Now, I don't think that you really get the defensive stats. So let's go back and take a look at it again. Let's take a look at the extends again. So yeah, it looks like that it's totally different now, at least a little bit different. So it's going to be HP, physical attack, physical defense, and magic defense, right? So the point of having the accuracy and stuff, of course, is to land your debuffs here. But the game has changed a little bit, right? So that's always been something I've always went for. But the way I'm looking at it now, you know what? I'm going to have to go into a different set of gear. This might not be the best starting gear to go in. It might actually be not gold, not the dragon one, but I think it's the, not the jade, but the, where is it at? Cavalier? this might be one of the better sets to start out with. So I'm most certainly going to test some things out with having the Eagle gear, and then I'm going to go and get myself a full set of Cavalier and test it out and see if it works a little bit better, especially with adding that extra attack and magic attack there. Will it really make that much of a difference on my defensive characters or not? So I guess it still does kind of depend on how you're operating your team. Of course, if you have teams who are dependent on that bleed debuff, which is kind of what the Bloodthirsty Axe is doing, it's attacking and 65% chance of placing that bleed, then if they're dependent on that bleed debuff, then sure. But there might be a different way now in which you may approach things going forward. You may want to put one of these other things that are on. You may want one that cleanses. You may want one that like the magic staff, for example, which does poison pop, for example. So now your main character can actually be the one doing the poison pop, which is really, really cool. And just like something like this one here with like the Transcendence, attacks all enemies, 160 magic damage, 4% chance to reduce the damage of each enemy by 50% for 2 turns. So this one here, protecting your team possibly right there. So there's definitely a lot more things to look at now. It's completely different. It's going to be a lot of learning, but it does look exciting and it does look fun. So I just wanted to bring up those points there real quick, where you're going to have to run through and test some things to get past some stuff. The game is definitely harder, which isn't a bad thing because it gives you something to work around. But however, that resources there might be something that might be a little bit different. Of course, again, you can transfer XP, you can transfer Evo levels, so that's still a nice thing, but still want to take a look at it so that we can see what's going on there. So just wanted to mention those things to you all. Let me know if there's other things that you all want to see videos on, and thank you all so much for coming in and chilling and being in here with me, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Peace.